Hello YouTube. I like to read posted articles of a bright Russian scientist who was a graduate of the top military space academy, who is now a leading engineer and programmer who was involved with the ISS and the Mir space station projects. He worked in the GLONASS and other special projects of his country. Most likely he also worked for the little known Russian Space Intelligence Agency. Sergei is very bright. I think there is a reason he publishes information on the internet about outer space exploration, celestial mysteries, the moon and Antarctica, for instance. Maybe it is a signal to his counterparts, pointing out certain things, meaning this: we know this much or more, but this is all we will admit. Or maybe Sergei is just having fun. Now, Sergei has immense knowledge and a cool sense of humor. And you can find more of my videos about his projects or his ideas in my channel. Now, here are his observations about the moon. Then we will look at the Chinese hypothesis, so to say. After you watch this video, please see my hypothesis about the moon. You'll find it all in the links in the description to this video. Our moon, states Sergei, is a very strange celestial body, and not at all because it looks at us from the heavens almost every night. Especially impressionable people even see a human face on its surface. Creepy, scary, but still a face. Well, it's still not known for certain how our moon was actually born, but it is one of the largest satellites of the planets of the solar system. Computer modeling conducted recently shows that the hypotheses put forward in the past years are most likely not true, and the assumption that some unknown celestial body once collided with the young Earth and the moon appeared as a result of this event is also incorrect. It is even less likely that an object of this size could have been accidentally captured by Earth gravity, and it has maintained an inexplicably stable orbit for billions of years. Our strange moon, in general, despite the bold statements of science, no one still really knows how our moon was formed. It's too big for a planet like Earth, and the moon's orbit is too much correct. One thing is certain: along with many other unusual features, our moon is a unique object of the solar system, maybe even the whole universe. The more science learns about the moon, the more suspicions researchers have about its natural origin, and there are quite a few people who believe that the moon was probably built by someone and placed in its current place by some unknown beings, sentient beings, I'm sure. What for? Well, for example, to stabilize the climate and to maintain life on our planet. But if so, the question remains: who are these mysterious beings who built the moon? And why is one side of it always visible from the Earth? Maybe in order to hide some activity, the size is invisible. Why does the size of the moon in the sky exactly match the apparent size of the sun? Why is the moon sometimes visible during the day and sometimes not visible at night? Where does it disappear to? And thinking people have a huge number of such questions. Two Soviet researchers named Mikhail Vasin and Alexander Sherbakov from the USSR Academy of Sciences suggested back in the 1970s that the moon was an artificial celestial body and maybe even a space station created by unknown beings. Although the conclusions of the two researchers were based on completely scientific facts, now these two people are presented in the media as conspiracy theories and what they have come up with. Now they look at it as conspiracy theories. Well, what did the Soviet scientists base their conclusions on? First of all, they drew the attention of the public to the fact, to the discrepancy in the density of the Earth and the Moon. And this is an absolutely reliably established fact. The fact suggests that the internal structure of the Moon is less dense than the structure of the Earth, and consequently the Moon has some huge voids, caves, or lava tubes inside it, or it's really hollow in its center. Astronomer Carl Sagan in the United States commented on this fact in his 1966 book, written jointly with the Soviet astronomer Iosif Shklovsky, Intelligent Life in the Universe. He stated that a naturally formed satellite cannot be hollow. But how do we know if this is really the case? Maybe it's just the opposite. Maybe all rocky planets and satellites of planets are actually hollow inside. Is that normal? As proof that the Moon is empty inside, one interesting NASA report is repeatedly cited. It says that during the Apollo 12 mission, the lander crashed on the surface of the Moon, after which the Moon rang like a bell for a long period of time. And how does science explain this? Skeptical scientists say that this is all nonsense, and this effect is associated with the low density of the lunar core. In the period from 1969 to 1977, seismometers installed by NASA astronauts worked on the surface of the Moon. They were used to register unusual and periodically occurring moonshakes, during which the Moon rang furiously. In 1962, NASA researcher Gordon McDonnell in the American Journal Astronautics stated, "According to our analysis of the Moon's motion, the Moon appears to be hollow. The data show that the inner part of the Moon is at least much less dense than its outer parts." Werner von Braun, so instrumental in the U.S. space exploration industry, he wrote about this phenomenon in a scientific article published in the journal Popular Science in 1970. In addition, according to the revelations of informants, says Sergei, von Braun also talked in private about extraterrestrial bases on the Moon, and also declared his confidence that extraterrestrial civilizations visited the planet Earth and that they're still watching us. I am seriously impressed with Sergei's knowledge, but let's see what else he says. However, modern astronomers refuse to admit that there may be large cavities inside the Moon. So what does it turn out to be? Asked Sergei. In the distant past, aliens brought the Moon to Earth and put it in its current orbit, and our Moon is a giant extraterrestrial space station? Well, we will let Sergei ask us questions, and we will look at some other evidence. Let's move on to China. China is a land of mystery and enchantment, and a few other things. It has a very active space program, and China is filled with many images: gods and goddesses, mythical creatures, historical characters, dragons and unicorns. And throughout its history, China has seen many conflicts, religions, and philosophies that have been interwoven into Chinese myths. In many of the well-known Chinese tales, we often find no clear distinction between reality and myth, earth and heaven, history and storytelling, past and present. So, in the history of mankind, many legends related to the Moon have spread all over the world. Well, in the ancient Chinese book of the Tang Dynasty, Yuan Tzu, it is written, during the reign of Wen Zhun, years 809 through 840, Wan Su-Tsai and Jane Ben's younger brother went to Mount Songshan and got lost. The travelers asked the way of a commoner resting on the side of the road. At the same time, the man was asked where he came from. This man, laughing, said this: "Dear sirs, do you know that the moon consists of 7 treasures? The moon is like a sphere. It is dim. The radiance of the sun is reflected from its surface. Usually 82,000 families build it. I am one of them." He showed them the way and then disappeared from sight. The legend says that the moon does not emit light, but only reflects the sun. How did the people of the Tang dynasty know about this 1100 years ago? And then there was a monk who in a previous life was engaged in the construction of the moon. An old Chinese hermit monk talked about his past life hundreds of millions of years ago. Human civilization was very developed then. At that time, large cities with very high structures were located in all corners of the world. Giant ships with thousands of passengers were drifting through the air. Thanks to the advanced science and technology, people began to think about creating a celestial body capable of illuminating the earth at night. After this seemingly unthinkable idea was put forward, it was supported by all segments of society. Therefore, all humanity had mobilized to implement this huge project. The old monk at that time worked as an engineer and participated in the construction of the moon. He said that inside the core of the moon there are many precise gears, mechanisms, power equipment, and other devices. There is nothing in the gap between the core and the shell of the moon. The outer layer is a protective shell made of a thick metal plate several kilometers thick. After years of continuous work, humanity has finally completed the construction. The visible surface of the satellite was polished so that it reflected sunlight to the earth at night. In order for the moon to illuminate continuously, the speed of its rotation was calculated so that the polished side was always turned to the earth. The whole world fervently and solemnly celebrated the day of the completion of construction. The builders of the moon became the most respected group of people of that time, and they were glorified for a long time. The old monk noted with a sigh, unfortunately, along the development of mankind more and more indulged their own desires and whims. This led to a moral decline. The high degree of civilization developed has led to a shortage of material resources and environmental problems. In the end, humanity was subjected to a crushing catastrophe, and the earth was also seriously damaged. Everything went back to primitive times, and development began anew, and the story of the moon turned into a fairy tale. Time will tell, I think, but I want you to listen to an excerpt about the moon episode from the Chinese history. Very interesting. The Emperor Yao, in the 12th year of his reign, 2346 BC, one day, while walking in the streets of Huayang, met a man carrying a bow and arrows, the bow being bound round with a piece of red stuff. This was Qiqiang Yu. He told the emperor that he was a skillful archer and could fly in the air on the wings of the wind. The emperor named him Shenai, the divine archer, attached him to his suite, and appointed him chief mechanic of all works. Shenai, riding on the celestial bird, traversed the air and reached the disk of the sun just at midday. He found himself carried into the center of an immense horizon as large as the earth, and did not perceive the rotatory movement of the sun. He then enjoyed complete happiness without care or trouble. The thought of the happy hours passed with his wife, Heng-O, however, it came back to his memory, and born on a ray of sunlight, meaning that he was carried on a ray of sunlight, he flew to the moon. He saw the cinnamon trees and the frozen-looking horizon. Going to a secluded spot, he found Heng-O there all alone. On seeing him, she was about to run away, but Shen-Ai took her hand and reassured her. "I am now living in the solar palace," he said, "and do not let the past annoy you." Shen-Ai cut down some cinnamon trees, used them for pillars, shaped some precious stones, so built a palace which he named Kuan Kung, Palace of the Great Cold. From that time forth, on the 15th day of every moon, he went to visit her in her palace. This is the conjunction of the yang and yin, male and female principles, which causes the great brilliancy of the moon at that epoch, of that era. Shen-Ai, on returning to his solar kingdom, built a wonderful palace, which he called the Palace of the Lonely Park. From that time, the sun and the moon each had their ruling sovereign. This regime dates from the 49th year, or 2309 BC, of Yao's reign. So you can yourself interpret celestial palaces, powerful missiles, celestial birds flying through the sky and in outer space, and of course human habitation on the moon. I think it's very precise, but again, I urge you to look more into it, and you can see a lot in my videos about China, about ancient beliefs and ancient aliens and so forth, and the Yellow Emperor. We will keep looking at China's legends and their knowledge in the future, but for now, look at modern China's contemporary moon exploration and learn about the extent of their celestial ambitions. You have a link to my video about China's modern moon exploration, but there's much more. So it's very interesting information from Russia and China, I think, and I will definitely bring you more of similar information in the future. If you can support my research, please do so. You will find the links on how to do it in the description to this video. Please subscribe to my channel, please like my videos, and please tell others. I really want more people in the world to know that countries like China and Russia in Eurasia and lesser sized countries nevertheless have impact in the paranormal research, exploration of outer space and so forth. I think it's very important. Thank you.